Look everybody, I'm not a drop bar elitist. Welcome everybody, and today we're going to do another first ride video, and this is a bike that has been a long time coming. Today I'm going to be test riding the Rivendell Sam Hillborne. So it's probably not a big surprise to many of you, but I have been greatly influenced by Grant Peterson and all the bikes that Riv has put out over the years. So it's an awesome treat and pleasure to finally have one in as a tester. So this bike will shock many of you. Not only is it not hydraulic disc brakes, it doesn't have disc brakes, or rather it has rim brakes, which, as Jan says, is actually a giant disc. The Hillborne is kind of the quintessential all-rounder bike by Rivendell. It can be built up both as a drop bar bike and as a alt bar bike. I went with the sweatbacks just to mix things up on the channel. And these are the Billy handlebars. Even though they look like grandma style handlebars, they're super functional. But I'll get into that more when we ride. So one of the things I really like about this is actually the gearing. This is probably the first test bike on the channel that has arrived with what I think is appropriate gearing for touring. This is their silver double crankset. That's right, it's like having a 1x, but two of them at the same time. And the chain rings are 38-24, 9-speed, and the rear is 11-34. So massive functional range, especially if you're carrying things or riding up steep terrain. It's also got these Monarch pedals, which are an update over the Grip Kings, Brook saddle, Nitto seat post, and this massive and beautiful bag. Their house brand, Sackville, made in the US. This thing truly is one of the coolest bike bags I've ever had the chance to check out. Check out these massive zipper pockets. Does not skimp on room. I think you could put an entire bike packing bag set inside this bag. It would just eat it for breakfast. So enough talking, let's get riding on this beautiful and super functional bike. My Rivendell dreams have finally come true.
I'm so happy for you, Russ. I also get to ride a beautiful and fully functional bike.
Do you? I guess, it's pretty cool. Yeah, So one of the things about this Rivendell is that I know it looks like a city bike, a bike share bike, a grandma bike, whatever, but it does not ride like that. Yes, it's super comfortable, but it does not have the weight of your typical cruiser, has much better thought out components. It won't like explode on you after a month or so. It's a much better riding experience. So don't let its chill party pace looks fool you. Okay, test route for today is a little bit different. It's mostly just climbing and descending. We're gonna go up into the Lincoln Hills. First part's a paved climb, and then a dirt road climb that turns into kind of a chunkier dirt road climb, and then descending all that back on the way down. In terms of handling, Rivendell doesn't publish their geo numbers, so if I were to guess, the trail on this would be low to mid 60s, definitely not low trail and not high trail, so somewhere in that 60 to 65 trail range. Chain stays definitely on the longer side. My guess would be about 440, 445. So I've not seen their geo chart. I don't even know if they've published one, but I will if you watch this. Let me know if I'm close. I have to say, it's actually nice to have a bike with real low gears instead of like faux low gears or roadie low gears. So let's talk about the bars a little bit. Pretty interesting. I feel like they've got two main hand positions near the end for kind of upright riding. We also, over here, this actually replicates what it feels like to ride on the hoods of drop bars. So I find I actually like that hand position a little bit more forward when climbing. Another interesting note is how the steering changes as you move up the bar. So at this furthest most point, steering is very light and quick, and as you move forward, that forward body weight kind of chills out the steering. So one way to think of this handlebar is like one really massive drop bar handlebar with a really long ramp. So super functional. It might be my favorite alt bar that I've tried. So the Hillborne is supposed to be a mixed terrain bike. It has wider clearances, a little bit heavier than road bike, and not as stout as like a full-on kind of hilly bike in Rivendell speak. So the definition of a true all-rounder. So we passed a sign back there and said, beware of bear activity. Apparently there's a mom and some cubs. So we'll see how far up we get. If we run into them, clearly not gonna go any further, but welcome to Montana. So before gravel grinding, I'm sure many of you will point out that there is something called the Rough Stuff Fellowship. So people who sought out kind of rougher roads and always took their bike on the nice walk. I think this bike would definitely classify as a rough stuff bike. I definitely give Rivendell props for towing that line of bikes with bigger clearances and mounts, but not too heavy, for kind of being the first wave of the modern gravel bike, if you will. So one thing I love about this bike, and it's definitely not for everybody, is that it truly has no pretensions to be a race bike. This is a bike that you take rambling, you can go fast on it, but there's no pressure to dress up to ride this bike. But this one is the total party pace, supple life bike. I like this scenery. It's very Rivendell-esque. Okay, so in terms of climbing this rough stuff, I think it's an excellent climber. I love the multiple hand positions. If you want that familiar riding on the tops of your drops kind of feel, you've got it there. So lots of leverage to crank the bike left and right to get you up and over the hill. I also feel like the longer-ish wheelbase, when standing climbing, I didn't break traction, which is pretty good on this climb. And of course, the bike has reasonably low gears for once, rather than just pretending to be a road bike. It's accepted itself for what it is and just has gone with the lower gears. So really appreciate that. So I think we're gonna turn around here. Did really well on the uphill. Let's see how it does on the downhill. So I don't know, do you think I'm gonna survive this downhill with cable brakes?
I don't know, Russ. I mean, not only do you have to trust the cables, but you have to trust that they will be able to grip onto something that's not just a circular disc in the center of your wheel.
That's true. Although there is a large circular disc around the wheel.
I suppose one could make that argument.
One could, and one shall. Let's see if I die. It's only single piston. I mean, it's actually 0 piston. So we'll see. So I miraculously survived that downhill on a 0 piston cable brake. Not even disc brake. It's amazing. Well, miracles never cease. So lots of compliance on the front end. Probably not for everybody, but I actually prefer it. If there's one thing, this bike, especially when you're on the rear of the bars, it does feel a little twitchy, not as stable as a mountain bike or a higher trail bike, so something to adjust to. And also, while I do love the aesthetics of the new bombs, I don't have gloves on, so it's a little rough on the hands. So definitely with these style grips, you want to use gloves of some sort. If you're going to ride gloveless, I'd probably swap these out to some more traditional mountain bike grips or some silicone bar tape. I was wishing on some parts that I had a dropper post. I don't know if that's sacrilegious or whatever, but I think that would be a fun combination with this bike. But that's it for this first ride. I'm gonna do a deeper delve into the bike, review the bag and the components and all that stuff in a later video, so be sure to subscribe, and as always, keep the supple side down.